Hello, everyone. Welcome to join the Benham Reeves Property Investment and Education Seminar today. Today, we have a few speakers. First of all, we have Marc from Benham Reeves UK, and then he will talk about the UK property market. And followed by, we have Alexander from InterGreat Education. He will be talking a lot about the UK education system and the schoolings. And followed by, we have Lara she's a sales manager from Barratt Group, and she's going to talk about the Millbrook Park developments. So now let me pass the time to Marc.
Hi everyone. It's Marc von Grundherr. I'm really sorry, Alexandra, your volume doesn't seem to be working.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now, everyone?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Sorry.
Sorry about that. So maybe let me quickly introduce one more time. So thank you everyone for joining the webinar today by Benham Reeves. Our topic today is about UK property investment and education. Today we have Marc from Benham Reeves UK. He's the director of our company who will be talking about the UK property investment. And we then have Alexander from InterGreat Education. He will be talking about the UK education and the schooling system. And lastly, we'll have Lara from, she's the sales manager from Barratt's Group. She'll be talking about the development Millbrook Park in Mill Hill. So let me now pass the time to Marc. Thank you, Marc.
Hi, good evening, everybody in Hong Kong. As Alexandra said, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Marc von Grundherr. I'm a director of Benham Reeves, and I'm based in London. I've worked in the property market for the last 25 years. I know I don't look old enough, but I have, sadly. And so much has changed in the London property market, not just over the last few years, over the last few months. And if doomsday predictions were to be believed, we'd be going through a massive property market crash at the moment. But instead, I'm really pleased to report that there's recent surge in activity in both the sales and the lettings market, and it's continuing. After the property market ground to a near halt, Q3 was always going to see buyers and sellers race back to the market. But recent activity has surpassed even the most optimistic predictions. In fact, Rightmove, the UK's biggest portal, has reported record levels of buyer activity with, amazingly enough, the highest number of monthly sales agreed in 10 years. And the number of homes sold within 7 days of going on the market is up 125% compared to last year. And that number is 1 in 7 homes sold within a week. And if sales continue at this rate, let's be honest, supported by low mortgage rates, then prices will rise much faster than predictions were expecting. The truth is, prices did not really fall during lockdown. You know, when demand falls, prices don't necessarily follow suit. Most sellers decided to wait out the lockdown or put their property onto the rental market rather than sell at a discount. This resulted in a drop in transactions rather than prices. And after we saw a 15.6% rise in August, residential property transactions in September rose a further 21.3%. And the Bank of England has just reported that lenders approved 91,500 mortgages for house purchases in September, the highest number since September 2007. Approvals are now 25% higher than they were in February and 10 times higher than in May. And for the first time this year, the number of completions of residential sales exceeded over 100,000 in a month, according to data from HMRC. That's a 20% increase over August. The Centre for Economics and Business Research, the CEBR, estimated that 150,000 house moves were put on hold because of the pandemic, and they're now back in business. Nationwide, another building society, they said that the annual UK house price growth soared to 5.8% in October, the highest rate since January 2015. And according to Zoopla, With demand continuing to outstrip supply, house price growth looks set to remain at between 2 to 3% by the end of this year. And across the board, there's been a dramatic upturn in inquiries, as I mentioned earlier, shown by the portals, and that's both from investors and homeowners. And most properties have actually been selling quite close to the asking price. So this surge has been nothing short of exceptional, and the recovery in the market has been V-shaped so far. But for those drawing comparisons with the 2008 recession, the main difference is that in 2008, the recession was mainly financially driven, whereas our government this time has made a conscious decision to support lockdown while putting in place measures to support the housing market and the wider economy. Meanwhile, activity in the lettings market has been robust. However, higher levels of supply, both through lack of students because of the travel ban and reduction in short-term lettings. In fact, Airbnb has been absolutely crucified. So that stock has been returning to the letting market. So increased supply from the Airbnb stock, reduced demand levels because of less students in the market has had an impact on rental values. And we've seen reduction in some cases, but this is temporarily an issue that you've got to, as a landlord, take account of and be flexible in the rent you're willing to take, because it's only going to be a temporary setback. The rental market is extremely price sensitive at the moment. And that's why accurate pricing is absolutely key, with landlords, as I said, needing to be flexible on the price to let a property quickly or let it at all. And the properties letting most quickly are those presented in the best possible way too. So now let me turn to why London. So let's not lose sight of what really matters. London has proved time after time that it's an extremely resilient city, be it in the face of recession, terrorism, or even illness as we have right now. London's an international hub for business. The city's strong economy, thriving business outlook, and prosperous jobs market are among the reasons people choose again and again and again to buy, live, and work here. London property is a bulletproof investment. You know, I use that phrase a lot. It's a bulletproof investment. It's always been the safe haven, and for long considered one of the world's most trusted assets. With its ability to deliver a regular income, unlike many countries where the yields are incredibly low, in London you can get anywhere from a 3 to a 5% yield. So that's a good, strong, regular income and long-term capital growth, even during times of wider uncertainty. Then there's the UK law, which is known throughout the world for its openness, transparency, and fairness. London has the highest concentration of financial and professional service firms in the world, a very strong tech sector. It's a leading global academic hub too. It's consistently ranked as the world's top student city. Today, this is an amazing stat. 450,000 overseas students study in the UK, and they contribute a whopping £20 billion a year to the UK economy. London universities have the highest number of international students in the world. And one of my favorite stats, if you can believe this, it's absolutely true because we checked it, 58 of the current world leaders were educated in the UK. Education is a key theme when looking for value. Property prices tend to rise near good schools and universities. And of course, because so many students rent, there's strong demand for properties. And as I said earlier, there is a lull at the moment because of the travel ban restrictions, but that's a temporary lull. And if those properties are not renting to students, they're renting to local people. So you're not just tied to students. Education has also been a key driver for residential property. And just last month, a Saudi billionaire set the world record for the most expensive student accommodation. He paid £18.6 million for a flat for his daughter while she's studying in London. Can you believe that? Amazing. I wish my parents had bought that for me, but sadly not me. And then if you turn and look at the leasing or the rental market, with such strong tenant demand, even at the moment, meaning minimal void periods and consistent yields. And today, 1/3 of London households live in private rented accommodation. And according to PwC, in 5 years' time, 2025, they're predicting that figure will jump to 60% of London households renting. So at Benham Reeves, and I'm personally really optimistic because this is a market with sound long-term fundamentals. Most importantly of all, and this really is crucial to create some context at a time like this, never in London's many centuries of history has there been a crisis from which markets and house prices haven't bounced back even stronger. And if you look here, that includes the Spanish flu of 1918, the Great Depression of the 1930s, the stock market crash of 1987, and then more recently, 9/11, the credit crunch, and even Brexit, if you can remember that. As with the world's major economies, as they go into recession, investors always are looking for ways to hedge against this by investing in assets which have historically been able to deliver stable returns and quick recoveries. So why now? If you can afford it, I really believe now is a good time to buy. This is a buyer's market. I've talked about the demand in the market and the fact that there are lots of sellers who aren't reducing prices too much. However, it is a buyer's market because if you've got the capital to buy, then now is a time to look at it. And after 2 successive interest rate cuts in March 2020, the Bank of England base rate remains at a historic low of just 0.1%, and it might even go negative. This means that many lenders are offering incredibly competitive buy-to-let mortgage rate deals. I've heard of an amazing deal yesterday where one of our lenders told me they're willing to offer 2.25% to foreign buyers, up to 75% of the purchase price. That's unheard of in the market. Meanwhile, developers are offering good deals, as many have completed units which they need to sell. We're seeing strong demand from overseas investors, particularly from Hong Kong, after July, when the government offered about 3 million British national overseas passport holders in Hong Kong a path to British citizenship. And in fact, Hong Kong buyers are now the 5th largest foreign investors in London, after China, the US, India, and Russia. They accounted for 4% of all purchases. The weakness of sterling continues to be a real advantage for international investors who are actually finding that London property offers exceptional value right now. And a very big important incentive is the UK has announced a zero stamp duty on the first £500,000 until March 2021. This applies to homeowners as well as investors. But you only have a short window of opportunity, and it only is until March 2021. So you shouldn't focus purely on the stamp duty saving. You need to focus on the right product in order that you get the best returns. You don't just buy something because you're going to save a little bit of money if it's not going to turn into a very strong investment. Obviously, it's nice to have that additional stamp duty saving, but you need the right investment. Also, overseas buyers are going to experience a new additional stamp duty surcharge, which is coming in at 2% from April 2021. So again, if you act now and you buy, but you have to complete a property before the end of March, then you will save a saving on stamp duty on both fronts. However, as I said, you should not just focus on the stamp duty saving. I know it's very enticing, but you need to focus on the right investment, buying the right property in the right market. And if it costs you a little bit in stamp duty, but the yields or returns are going to be higher, then that's going to outweigh anything like that. In fact, myself, I bought a property recently and it doesn't complete until the end of next year. Why? Because that block, the one that I was looking at, was closest to the station. So I figured that was the best investment for long-term growth, even though I missed out on the stamp duty. So we always say, get advice. So don't just rush to buy the one with the cheapest stamp duty. So that tax break has spurred a wave of transactions, the stamp duty saving, with buyers securing deals. And the first National House Price Index, released after the introduction of SDLT holiday, revealed an increase in house prices of 1.5%. But I think included in those figures are all the BNO passport holders from Hong Kong rushing to enter the London property market or the UK housing market. So I firmly believe this is a time of opportunity and indeed a great time to invest, to benefit from the weakness caused to sterling by Brexit and COVID-19. I love this phrase from Warren Buffett. He's one of my favorite investors. He's everybody's favorite investor. But I love this phrase. Widespread fear is your friend as an investment because it serves up bargain purchases. Whether we're talking about socks or stocks, I like buying quality merchandise when it's marked down. And there's never been a time in history that London property didn't bounce back from being marked down. But as I said earlier, when I was talking about the stamp duty, it's so important to target your investment. You know, London, it's a single word, but within it, there are 32 different boroughs, different zones, different cultures, and different property profiles. Apart from price and location, investors need to consider yields, potential for capital growth, whether it's a regeneration area, and of course, transport links. Plus then consider the reputation and track record of the developer, because they're the ones that are going to build it for you when you complete. You need to make sure it's going to be the quality and the finish that they sold it to you. And if you're buying as an investment, which effectively is a home for someone else to rent from you, then the key is to think about who they are and what they might want and what they're going to be happy to pay rent for. So the key question is, what do London tenants look for? Well, at Benham's, we carry out regular surveys of our tenants, and some things never change, including the oldest adage of them all, location, location, location. But tenants want excellent transport links. You know, our surveys show that they don't want to be any more than a maximum 10 minutes walk to a station. Families want to be close to good schools, close to other families, and near to parks and public gardens. Young professionals, on the other hand, they don't want to be near families, and they don't really care about being so close to good schools. They want to be close to social life, like gyms or bars or cafes. But today, COVID has actually created some new trends. And the lockdown period during Q2 forced Londoners to rethink what they need from their homes. Suddenly, priorities started changing. Working from home means demand for space for desks and queries about internet speeds, and demand for outside space, whether there's a patio, terrace, or balcony. These trends, I'm predicting, are going to feature for the long term because no one knows. The UK is in lockdown at the moment. No one knows whether these things will come and go, and I think these trends will continue. Another tip that I always give, and this isn't so much due to COVID, but it's a good tip, is that each bedroom should have its own bathroom. So if you're going to buy a 2-bedroom, buy one with 2 bathrooms, or you limit the rentability. It's great for a single person who wants the 2nd bedroom as a study, but if you're looking for 2 people to share, it's unlikely they're going to want to share the same bathroom. And many tenants insist on a professionally managed property. In fact, our corporate tenants that come via our Japan desk, they will not even look at a property that isn't managed, whether it's by us or somebody else, but it has to be managed. So the key to a successful investment are meticulous planning, on-the-ground knowledge, and a trusted independent partner. And honestly, just a quick plug for us, this is where we frankly come in. With our 60 years of experience in the London property market, we've got 16 branches across the capital at the moment and 2 more to open over the next 3 months. We've got 8 branches internationally. We were the first 25 years ago to open an office in Hong Kong for our clients, to hold their hands and guide them through the process. Then we now have Singapore, Malaysia, Shanghai, 3 in India, and 1 in Dubai covering the UAE and Africa. Our focus is on our clients because we understand without our clients, we're nothing. And so we ensure that we will help with everything we can, so clients are able to get a complete one-stop service from us. And just one of my favorite circles, so if you've seen one of my talks before, I do this quick slide because it does show that everything is a circle. It starts with investment advice of where to buy and what to buy. We then help with the handover and snagging, so you don't have to fly 7,000 miles away to come and check whether, Barratt or whoever you're buying from has actually completed the property. We're there to do that for you. We then arrange the furnishings. If you want it decorated or need any work done, we do that for you. We then deal with the leasing if you want to let it. We deal with the management. So unlike other parts of the world and in Asia especially, the tenants don't get your number. They call us if anything goes wrong. And then we deal with tax returns, because whether or not you have any tax to pay, you have to do a tax return in the UK or you get a very, very big fine. And everything that I've just talked about, we do generally in-house. We try very hard not to subcontract. So we never get let down because our staff don't let us down. So we in turn never have to let a client down. And another unique difference that I think is really important for investors and homeowners who, when they buy through us, is to give them confidence, is that we, and when I say that, I mean myself, all of my co-directors and a lot of our senior people often invest alongside our clients in the same developments and the same locations, putting our own personal money in to properties within the developments, clearly demonstrating our belief in what we recommend and using exactly the same research process. And I'm certain that we'll all look back on this time as a unique opportunity, a time when many panicked unnecessarily. A lot of people selling for a low price just to exit and get their money out. But my view is that those with an eye on the bigger picture will make some really brilliant investments at the moment. And we're going to be talking, well, Lara's joining us. She's going to be talking about one of my favorite investments that's coming out now in Northwest London. She's going to do the big exciting thing. But I think it's very interesting for you because this is the worldwide, global, first ever overseas launch. It's never come to Asia before. And this is a very exciting project. So as I said, Lara's going to talk about that. But as I mentioned before, education is a key driver for the London property market and our economy, to be fair. So now I'm going to hand over to Alexander, who's going to give you an overview of the UK's education system and show you why 58 of the world's leaders were educated here. Alexander, over to you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark, and thank you very much, Alexandra, as well, for inviting me to speak to you all today. I hope all is well in Hong Kong this fine evening. I'm just trying to switch the slide onto my one. Okay, Thank you. Right, so my name is Alexander Lindon-Morris. I am the Managing Independent Schools Advisor at InterGreat Education Group, which is a transnational education company. So what that means is I help support overseas students with finding schools in the UK. I help them to select their schools. I help them to prepare for the entrance assessments. And then when they actually arrive in the UK, I then provide support services to help them with their studies and their general well-being. So I'm here today to give you a very brief outline of the school system in the UK, and then to introduce to you some schools related nearby to the Millbrook Park development, because there are some absolutely superb schools around that area. Okay, all right. Okay, yeah, so I'll start off by explaining the UK school system. So there's really sort of two separate areas for UK schools. There are state schools, which are government funded schools, and then there are independent or private schools. There is a slight difference between them, but essentially they are fee-paying schools. So obviously, because of the way the schools are funded, there is a big difference between how the schools receive their money. And so state schools have less funding on a per pupil basis, whereas the independent schools, of course, because they are getting money in from the parents, they have more money to spend on each pupil, which means that they are able to offer teachers higher salaries and also to have generally better facilities and more updated equipment. However, there are, of course, some very fine state schools as well, two of which I will mention later on in this presentation. Another difference between the state schools and the independent schools is that independent schools are not quite as restricted by government regulations and policies. It's kind of in the name there. So it means that they are able to teach a more broader curriculum and often help students to progress at a much faster pace than the state schools. That's it in general terms, although again there are some absolutely amazing state schools which definitely do help the students to progress extremely quickly. So with regards to the state schools, there are four main stages. There's nursery, which students can join from 2 years old up until 4 or 5 years. While I said that you don't have to pay any tuition fees for nursery, there's usually only a certain amount of hours that you get for free, and then if you want full-time education, you usually have to pay extra for that. Then primary school starts at either 4 or 5. It depends on whether the student joins at reception, which is like year 0, or when they're 5 years old for year 1. And that runs through until students are 11 years old, which is UK year 6. Then secondary school starts when the students are 11 years old, that's year 7. And it runs through until they are 16 years old, which ends in GCSE examinations. And that's the end of compulsory education in the UK. However, there is the 6th form, which is sort of the equivalent of high school, where students study for 2 years before university. And the most popular course for students in the 6th form is A-levels. However, there are other options as well. There's BTEC, which is slightly more of a vocational course. The IB diploma, which is a very well-established international curriculum, and the Cambridge Pre-U, which is like a slightly more challenging version of A-levels. For independent schools, the system is slightly different. So they also have a nursery as well. And then they have pre-prep, which can start anywhere from between 3, 4 or 5 years of age. It does depend on the local system that is there, because pre-prep schools, and indeed for prep schools, which is the next stage, they all sort of feed into each other. Again, sort of there's a hint in the name, right? Prep, which stands for preparatory. So pre-prep schools will go up to either 7 or 8 years of age, and then students will progress onto a prep school. Sometimes it's called a junior school as well, which goes up to either year 6 or year 8. So students leave when they're either 11 years old or 13 years old, depending on, again, what sort of schools they are feeding into. Senior school then starts at either when students are 11 years old or when they're 13 years old. Most schools typically do start at year 7, and almost all girls' schools do this. However, some of perhaps the very famous schools that you might have heard of, such as Eton, Harrow, Winchester, they start in year 9. And again, they go through until 16, finishing with GCSEs, and then they have sixth form. Now, for the independent schools, many schools have the different departments within the school. So in fact, all of the schools that we'll be looking at today in the independent school sector, they actually can take students from pre-prep through until the sixth form. Right, next slide. Okay, so I'll briefly just outline the curriculum here. So the UK curriculum is rather broad, and certainly up until the students are 13, they study a very broad range of subjects. They will study the core subjects of English, maths, science, a foreign language. They'll study the humanities, arts, design, technology, ICT, food and nutrition. They'll study many subjects. And then when they're 13, they will start to choose to drop a few subjects, and these will be subjects that they're not intending on, pursuing with in the future. When they reach 14 years of age, they will begin GCSEs, and when they start GCSEs, they will still study the core subjects of English language, English literature, maths. They will study all 3 sciences, and usually a foreign language as well. Although some schools, especially if the students are overseas, they might not make them do a foreign language because already they're speaking English, and then they will have a choice of 3 or 4 other subjects as well, and so these will be the subjects that they've studied previously, that they've chosen perhaps that they want to pursue further. Then when they reach 16, they'll study A-levels, and they'll pick between 3 or 4 subjects, and these subjects should be chosen with a view to higher education. So they'll want to pick subjects that they can do well in, and also subjects that will be of use to their degree subject of choice. It's at this point where they could well close a few doors. For example, if you want to become a doctor, you need to study medicine at university, and a requirement for studying medicine at university is to study chemistry, and ideally biology as well, but you have to study chemistry, otherwise you can't go on to study medicine. Or for example, if they wanted to become an engineer, maths and physics would be 2 of the 3 A-level subjects that they should choose. So I'll move on now to start introducing some schools around the Millbrook Park development. I'm going to start off by talking about the independent schools, because there are some absolutely superb independent schools around this area. The first school is Haberdashers Aske's School for Girls. This school is, I know the pictures here show, a very modern school, but actually it's a rather old school, and this is just a testament to the superb facilities that independent schools have. It starts from pre-prep and goes all the way through to the sixth form, so it can provide a fantastic education for any age of girl. The GCSE results and A-level results, and I will be showing these for each school, are absolutely outstanding. So here I have the percentages of A star and A grades for both GCSEs and A levels, right? So for haberdashers girls, you can see that 93% of all GCSE grades are either A star or A, and this includes the new GCSE system where they have given numbers. So this would be grade 7 and above, which is absolutely amazing. It's a fantastic, fantastic academic performance, and anything above 80% for GCSEs is amazing, and anything above 70% for A levels is also outstanding. So it's a very competitive school to get into, as are most of the schools that I'm going to mention here, and they have entry points at the beginning of each school stage, as you can see there, at 4+, i.e. in September when the students are 4 years old, 7+, 11+, and 16+. And you need to take examinations to be able to get in. I know for the 11+ entry point, there's usually about 80 places available, with you know, a few hundred girls applying for those places. Now, right next to haberdashers girls is haberdashers boys. Again, another very academic school. It's got a slightly different structure, as you can see, because it doesn't take the boys in until they are 5 years old. Its academic results are very similar to haberdashers girls, slightly lower GCSE performance, but a slightly higher A-level performance. These two schools are actually, they're right next to each other, and they have an excellent school bus service as well. As you can see from the date that it was founded as well, in 1690, it's a very, very old school. So like haberdashers girls, it's competitive examinations, and they usually have about 100 places available for boys at the 11+ entry point. The next school is North London Collegiate School. So this is one of the top London girls' schools, and indeed it is, I believe, the first ever girls' school. So there's a lot of history connected to it there. It is an absolutely, it has a beautiful campus. You know, sort of, you wouldn't think you're in London when you walk around the campus. Its academic results, again, are superb. And actually this school as well offers the IB diploma too as well. And it's one of the top schools in the country for IB diploma results. There's a really fantastic atmosphere at North London Collegiate School as well, and the girls really, really love the school there. I've got a number of girls there, and they're all so fond of being students there. And again, like the other schools, it has entry points at 4+, 7+, 11+, and 16+, so it can provide the whole education there. I think I've got the age wrong there. It's 4 to 18 for North London Collegiate School. And then the final independent school I'd like to introduce to you is University College School, which is in Hampstead, so south of the Millbrook Park development. This is probably the most sort of liberal out of all of the schools. It's a historic school, but it is incredibly well, I wouldn't say incredibly, but it's more liberal than and sort of less traditional in its mindset than the other schools that I have mentioned. However, the academic results are still absolutely outstanding there. And while it is a boys' school for the younger students, once you get to the sixth form, girls can actually join there, and there are usually about 60 places available at 16+, and most of those go to girls. So you know, if you have a teenage girl that wants to study A levels, University College School is a really good opportunity to be able to find a place at a top London school. And now I'll introduce to you a couple of state schools as well near the Millbrook Park development. So these are the ones that are government funded. The first one I have is Queen Elizabeth School. This is QEB, Queen Elizabeth School, Barnet. It's a boys' school and it's a grammar school, which means that these are the state schools that have competitive examinations. It's a very old historic school, and academically it's one of the best boys schools you know, in the whole country, independent school or otherwise. If you have a look at the GCSE results and the A-level results, especially the A-level results, it's amazing, with close to 90% of the grades being A star or A. It's got fantastic results. The one caveat to the school though is that they only have one entry point, which is at 11 plus, and so most of the boys will be well, the boys will be either 10 or just turning 11 when they take the exams to join there. There isn't really any opportunities to join outside of that 11 plus entry point. So if you were considering the school, you need to have a plan in place to make sure that you can apply at the right time. And the other school is Henrietta Barnett. So this is also a grammar school, but this time it's only for girls, whereas QEB is obviously for boys. This has one of the best academic results out of all of the countries, all of the schools in the country. 95% A star to A and in GCSE, and 92% in A levels. Again, absolutely amazing, results. And unlike QEB, I haven't got it in the PowerPoint there, but 11 plus exact, there's 11 plus entry point, and then there is also a sixth form entry point. So again, if you have a teenage girl, you know, they can apply when they are 15 or having just turned 16 to apply to study A levels at Henrietta Barnett. And so with the state schools, I've really just introduced the top grammar schools there, but there are some fantastic primary schools as well near Millbrook Park. So here are four that are all within a mile and a bit radius from the development. As you can see, with all of these, they have nurseries as well, except for Cortland, and they have Ofsted ratings, which are the government inspections of outstanding, right, which is the top rating you can get. And I'd like to draw your attention to the performances as well, which are how the students are assessed when they leave the school. They're assessed in their reading and their mathematics, and this is for the average student. And 100 is average, right? So the average student at these schools are all well above the average. And in fact, for Cortland and the Orion Primary School, they're significantly above average in the students' reading and mathematical ability. So there's lots of fantastic options available. So that's the end of my whirlwind presentation. I'll be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. And thank you very much for listening to me.
I think Alex, maybe there's a problem with her volume. I think Lara's going to now run through this exciting opportunity. Well, thank you very much, Alexander, but Lara's going to talk through this very exciting Millbrook Park global worldwide first launch. I keep saying that because this has never been in Hong Kong before. And that's why, and we have it exclusively for Benham Reeves. You can't buy it anywhere else. And Lara's going to tell you why it's amazing. So thank you, Lara. Very exciting.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. And welcome everyone this evening. My name's Lara Forsey, and I've been working with Barratt London for over 15 years. I'm very pleased to talk you through Millbrook Park There's quite a lot of content on my slides because it's such a fantastic development, but I will run through it now. So first slide, Mill Hill is located in an affluent area of northwest London between Finchley and Edgware on Battersea Hill. It's separated into 3 distinct areas: Mill Hill Village, which is the traditional part of the area with a village green; Mill Hill Broadway, which is the bustling, more modern area with numerous shops; and Mill Hill East, which has seen vast redevelopment in recent years. Barnet, incidentally, is in one of the top safest boroughs in London, and the source is from the Metropolitan Police in 2019. It's a very safe borough. Barratt London are one of the key developers working in partnership with the Millbrook Consortium, which is a former Army barracks site spread over 11 acres of land. Outline planning permission for the master plan was obtained in 2011 and divided into parcels. Over 2,000 new homes, as well as a community facilities, a new primary school, and approximately 6 acres of park and open space will be realised as part of the vision for this thriving new community by 2024. So great potential for capital growth as the area is gaining further regeneration. You can see from our chart here that based on our research, we found that regeneration schemes like Millbrook Park, where we improve an area with new homes, the capital growth can be more than double the London average. So the graph on the left here shows our development, Hendon Waterside, which is approximately 10 minutes away from Mill Hill. The capital growth between 2012 and 2019 at Hendon has increased over 128%. And this development is we're building over 2,000 new homes as well. So equivalent size to the regeneration of the consortium at Millbrook Park. And that's against the London average of only 56, just over 56%. Sorry, Jack, can you just go back a slide? So we're building 355 high quality new homes, including 10 houses, thoughtfully designed to maximize space, work and work from home areas and natural light. All apartments include 1 allocated underground parking space, and all apartments benefit from a balcony or a terrace. The lease length at Millbrook Park is 999 years. And Millbrook Park, our development, is located in a preferential position to the other developers on the consortium. We are literally adjacent to Mill Hill East Underground Station. So you could be in central London in 20 minutes or Paris in just under 3 hours. This map just shows you Millbrook Park and the proximity to the station, which is just across the road, 2 minutes walk from the development. Again, transport links are fantastic. Camden Town is the next stop. You can be in Euston in 20 minutes, King's Cross, Bank and London Bridge in just over 30 minutes. We're also very close to the mainline train station, so you can reach central London or out to Luton Airport in just under 30 minutes. Just showing the position of the development in location to the station, and the amenities, which I'll talk to you about now, which include a Virgin Active gym and also a Waitrose supermarket, all within 5-minute walk from the development. So 15 minutes busway away to Mill Hill Broadway, which is served by National Railway, served by Thameslink, which heads into either Wimbledon or out to Luton Airport, as I mentioned. Just a very short drive to either the M1 or M25. So you can reach Oxford and Cambridge in just under an hour and a half, or anywhere around the M25 really easily. As I mentioned, Waitrose and Virgin Active Gym are very close by, and we've just opened a Co-op mini mart on the development as well. So all your amenities are on your doorstep. There's also Brent Cross Shopping Centre with over 120 shops, just 10-minute drive away. The Alliance Park Stadium, which is an elite rugby club, that's not far away either. The Thrift Manor Equestrian Centre for horse riding. Barnet Copthall Leisure Complex with many leisure facilities there. Mill Hill Park and Finchley Golf Clubs are nearby, and Mill Hill Cricket Club. You really have everything that you need on your doorstep. And the London Borough of Barnet is in the metropolitan green belt, so home to woodland, conservation sites and reservoirs. The Welsh Harp Reservoir is just 10 minutes drive away, with sailing, canoeing, cycling and walking trails. And we've seen a huge amount of demand, as Mark touched on earlier, for people looking to move to nicer parts of London since the COVID pandemic. So this really does tick all the boxes. Alexander thoroughly highlighted the fantastic schools that we have in and around the development in Mill Hill, with over 20 Ofsted outstanding or good rated schools. So that's already been covered, and some of the world's top universities are only 35 minutes away on the Underground. So what we're really marketing now is the Ivy Apartments, and you'll see on the site plan, the block is located to the top left here. There's 49 private apartments in this block, a combination of 26 one beds, 23 two beds, over 5 stories, so not too high. It's actually the highest block on this whole development is 6 floors, so it's all very low level. There's 2 lifts in this block and 3 entrances. This is a CGI of the block, and I'll show you the site plan in the floor plan in a moment, but you can see that the top apartments there are set slightly back because they have really large terraces. This is right at the top of Bittersea Hill, so will afford fantastic views across London. So ground up to 4th floor. And as I mentioned here, you've got these huge terraces on the top floor. Usually on the other blocks, the terraces are on the ground floor, but this is unique in that they're on the top floor. So you can enjoy the outside space and look at the views from the top floors. The green apartments are the 1 beds that will look 117, 118, for example, will look into the courtyard garden with those huge outside spaces. Great specification at Millbrook Park. Flooring is included, underfloor heating, all your appliances are included with a washer dryer, etc. German handleless kitchens, so a really nice specification that we offer. The lease is 999 years. The ground rent is just a peppercorn, so really doesn't exist. There is no ground rent anymore on this development. The service charges are reasonable, and a small charge for car park maintenance. Our 1-bed prices are from 419,000 currently, and 2-bed prices from 550. I will talk briefly now about some townhouses we have on offer. On the next slide, I think they are. Yes, so set in the heart of the development, Poppy Muse is an exclusive collection of 10 exceptional 3- and 4-bedroom townhouses. They've been thoughtfully designed and built to an exceptionally high standard. They all have a private garden and a balcony from bedroom 1 and multiple living spaces. There's 2 car parking spaces included with the houses. Again, a really nice specification. German kitchens with silestone worktops, glass splashback, underfloor heating. Just wanted to show you a couple of images. Vanity units built in, master in the ensuite. Master bedroom has a wardrobe built in. Okay, and you have, as I mentioned, a terrace off of the master bedroom, and also your own private garden. Just a floor plan of the 3 beds. So you have an integral garage as well as a drive to park your car. All kitchens are open plan to the living and dining, and on to your approximately 30-foot garden. And then the next floor up, you have 3 double bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So a little bit about Barratt. Barratt lead the industry in quality and customer service, building nearly 18,000 new homes last year. For the last 11 years, we've been voted the UK's most recommended house builder, giving us our 5-star rating, the only developer to have held this accolade for 11 consecutive years. This means that the 18,000 homes we built last year, over 90% of those customers would recommend us to their friends and family. Barratt have been in the industry for over 60 years and is held in very high regard by the industry's governing body, the National House Builder Council, winning more build quality awards than any other developer for 14 years in a row. So all of these credentials can give you the assurance that you can expect build quality, great design, and award-winning customer service when you buy your Barratt home. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to answer any questions later.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lara. Thanks for the introduction for this exciting development, Millbrook Park. So now we actually have quite a number of questions. So we will try our best to take as many questions as we can. So due to the time constraint, let me try to take some questions right now. The first one is actually from Mr. Cool. He's actually asking, I think that's the question for you, Marc. He is asking about, can you please explain the total stamp duty for foreign buyers for an investment property after April 2021? So Marc, can you please answer this?
Sure. So that's a really good question, and I did mention it in my talk, and I'm glad you've asked it actually, because it's really upsetting for us, but it affects the overseas market, but it is one of those things. So from April the 1st next year, overseas buyers are going to have to pay an additional 2% stamp duty, and that's flat on any price of property. There's no bans or anything. It's just an additional 2%. So whatever you would normally pay, you just pay an additional 2%. So that it's really simple to work out. And to be fair, on a £500,000 property, it's an additional £10,000. It's annoying, but let's be honest, when we're looking at growth levels of, predicted of 3 to 5% a year, these figures get lost very quickly. And let's be honest, it's better than some of the countries in the world, Hong Kong, Singapore especially for a matter, where foreigners have to pay an additional 18% or 20% or whatever it is. So I think our government, while it's not the nicest thing that we have to tell our overseas investors, it's nowhere near as aggressive as other parts of the world.
Okay, thank you, Marc. So now we have another questions about education from Mr. Yip. So I think Alexander will be able to help. So this question is asking, for students who are UK citizens and living abroad right now, can they return anytime and receive free education in state schools? Or is it a UK residency requirement prior to receive this free education? So Alex, can you help?
Yes, certainly. So if they're a UK citizen, then certainly they can study at a state school. That's no problem, right? All of the children have a right to study at a state school. However, you should pay close attention to the entry point and the admissions policies for the certain schools. So like I mentioned in the presentation, when I talked about Henrietta Barnett School and QE Boys, QE Boys especially, they only have an 11+ entry point. So if you have a particular school in mind, some planning should go ahead to make sure that the application can be done to fit those needs. I would pay close attention to the school's admissions policies and look for either the in-year section or chance vacancies, occasional vacancies sections in there. But if you're not particularly picky about a certain school, finding a school to study at a state school is no problem. You make an application through the local council and they will assign a school. I should mention though, if you're thinking about universities too, it's just a relevant point. In universities, they class students as either home students or overseas students. And even if you're a UK citizen, you do have to be resident in in the UK prior to commencing your undergraduate studies to be classed as a home student, and then be allowed to pay the significantly lower fees that most other local UK students pay.
Okay, thank you, Alex. So we now have another question, which is about the Millbrook Park development. So Ms. Lau, she's actually asking about what is the rental yield at Millbrook Park. So maybe Lara, can you help us?
Yes, absolutely. The rental yields at Millbrook Park are currently just under 4%, which is, you know, fairly good for London. But we are offering the rental guarantee scheme, which I believe Marc will talk through now, which gives a guaranteed rent of 5% return.
Yes, so in conjunction, we believe in the project so much that actually we've agreed to give a 5% rental guarantee yield to any of the investors at Millbrook Park. So the good thing with a rental guarantee, often people think there's something, you know, funny about it because they don't rent. Well, that's just not the case. The reason we're offering it is because we need the stock, and it's a help to investors buying in this market. And some people are worried, as I said, with lack of students and lots of extra supply on the market. We don't. We're so confident on the product and the location that we're happy to guarantee 5%. So the day you complete, we start paying the rent to you, and that will be for a 2-year period. And at the end of the 2 years, we can carry on renting it for you, and after that, you'll get the accurate rent. But I mean, we don't think in a couple of years' time it's going to be much of 5% yield, but it gives you that peace of mind and gives you that no worries, because you're just going to get the rent. The other good thing is, as part of the rental guarantee, the property will absolutely have to be furnished. Now, Barratt's have agreed to cover the cost of a full furnishing pack, and that does not just mean hard furniture, because I've got to rent the property, and if I've got to rent it, it's got to look stunning, and so therefore they're going to do a fully dressed furniture pack. So that's not just, as I said, with a bed and a sofa. This is with a bed fully dressed with linen on it. It includes curtains, it includes throws, it includes a wardrobe in the second bedroom. So very important. It doesn't often get thought about, but there's no wardrobe often in the second bedroom. Or where does the tenant put their stuff? So everything's been thought about in order to make this rental guarantee easy for me to let. And Barratt have agreed to pay for that. So for an investor, it's a no-win, it's a no-lose situation, because you buy it, you don't have to worry, and we're going to let it for you and pay you the rent. So that's it. And I think it's a very, very enticing offering.
Okay, thank you, Marc. Well, Marc, another question for you, I guess. Mr. Daves, he is actually asking about, since the home prices are selling at the fastest rate in a decade and prices are at all-time high right now, so should we wait for the prices to drop slightly, or do you expect the prices to fall significantly after the stamp duty holiday ends?
That's a great question, actually. Do I think it's doom and gloom and prices are going to dump after the stamp duty holiday ends? On it, my one answer to that is, of course not. London property, UK property has its ups and downs, but it is not like Asian markets where you see it climb by 30% and then drop by 40%. You just do not see these in the UK. 100% prices are pretty close to all-time highs, but there is still growth in the market because so many people are coming in. Look at all the 3 million from Hong Kong. Not all of them will come, but they've offered residency to them. A lot of those people are buying. That will support the market. Remember, at the same time, locals still have to move. A lot of people have been held off moving during lockdown. So I think that's going to continue to move. Of course, if people can take benefit of the stamp duty, then they will. But I genuinely don't feel that after the end of March, when April comes, we're going to see this drop in the market. You might find, which often happens when they have these cut-off dates, the market will be really busy up to the end of March, and then maybe April will be a bit quieter. But then by the time the summer comes, May, June, July are big movement times in the UK. People love moving in spring and in the summer. So actually, no, I genuinely don't feel that the end of the SDLT holiday is going to cause a drop in prices. So was there another question, or was that the question? Sorry, was there a second part to that?
So the second part of that is, yeah, should we, do you expect the price to fall significantly after the stamp duty holiday?
No, I said no. So I definitely don't think so. Lara, you don't think that, do you? Do you think there's going to be a price drop? I know you're a developer, but you know.
I don't think there's a price drop, no. And actually in the last year, prices in Mill Hill have increased 3.85%. And CBRE are predicting that the London Borough of Barnet will be in the top 5 performing boroughs, realising increases of 12% over the next 5 years. So there's a lot of people thinking that the prices will be absolutely stable and increase, particularly in Mill Hill area where it's going to be regenerated.
Brilliant.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks, Marc and Lara. So now we have some questions for Alexander about the education. So from Mr. Wong, the recent UK announcement on Hong Kong citizens holding BNO can gain residency in UK. So will their kids pay international student fees? And or can they
are we talking about this for
Yep, sorry, Alex. Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, is that for university fees or for school fees?
For school fees.
So for independent schools, the fees for most, UK students and international students, they're the same. They just have the set school fees. If we're talking about, there are some boarding schools which do have fees for international students and for UK students, but there isn't really much of a difference, really. And so if we're talking about the London schools, there won't be a difference between whether you are a UK student or an international student, especially for the day schools. The only one sort of caveat is when you apply and you have to pay a registration fee. If you're doing the assessments in Hong Kong, you usually have to pay £100 or £200 more for the registration fees, just because of all of the complexities that they have in arranging things. But I would imagine there wouldn't be much of a difference, and if there is, it won't be significant at all. However, for the universities, like I mentioned before, because they're not going to have arrived in the UK and spent enough time in the UK, they would still have to pay the international student fees for universities. But if they came, now, and then they're going to go to university, in 4 years' time, then they should be able to pay the home fees for university.
Okay, understand. Thank you, Alex. Lara, it's you again. So we have investors asking about, from Mr. Taylor, asking about what are the benefits of buying from a reputable developer like Barratt? Like, can you share with us?
There's absolutely numerous benefits to buying from Barratt. As I mentioned earlier, we are the only developer that's won 11 consecutive years of a 5-star status. And we get that 5-star status by our over 90% of our customers recommending us to friends and family. So, that's a great accolade that we're extremely proud of. So you are buying from a great brand that's had over 60 years experience in the industry. Not just that, we offer 2 years warranty on all your appliances. There's a 24/7, 365-day-a-year aftercare service should you need anything. We have our own customer experience managers on each development looking after the tenants that move in, so they have a direct point of contact. Obviously, you're buying, a high-end property, which is very low maintenance, very energy efficient as well. And they're very easy to rent out because they're all brand new, obviously, compared to the second-hand market. And we're working in partnership with Benham Reeves, obviously, who will rent the property out easily for you. So it's just a hassle-free investment, really. But absolutely, Barratt London is definitely a brand that you can be safe and assured with.
Okay, thank you, Lara. Marc, this is quite interesting questions. I think about the specifically for the stamp duty holiday right now. So from Ms. Wong, she's actually concerning, is it too late right now to complete in time for property for the stamp duty holiday?
So that is, we now have, it's now the middle of November. So we've got December, January, February, and March. You've got 4.5 months. That becoming tight because sadly our legal process in the UK can take a little while. It's still fine. If you buy from a developer, you can still do it as long as you get your finance in place and everything like that. The units we're talking about with Lara here, this block, it will not complete in time for March. But as I said, you should not purely focus. Obviously, it's lovely to save up to £15,000 on stamp duty, but this should not be your sole focus. But if it is your sole focus, I'll tell you what we're willing to offer, we've already said, is Barratt are willing to look at waiving the stamp duty if you book a unit in November. Then they've agreed with us that for our buyers who book in November, as a result of our webinar, that they will cover the entire stamp duty, even if it doesn't complete until November. Now, that's a special offering that we have. If you go into Barratt in London, you won't get that offer. If you go to any other agent, you won't get that offer. So, as I said, your focus should not be purely on saving the stamp duty. You should be on the development. You should be focusing on the property, the location. And as Lara said, I mean, I really do like this development. I've done a video, it's on our website, of why I like it and why it's so good. It's opposite the tube. It's near all the great schools which Alexander's talked about. It's smaller units. There's loads of 1 beds, there's loads of 2 beds. They're easy to rent. Every flat comes with a parking space. So even if you have a car and you're in a 1-bedroom flat, you don't get a parking space in most developments in London. In fact, you don't get a parking space with most. In this development, you get one included. And it's got a rental guarantee. So frankly, it depends what you want. But that is the deal that we can do. But as I said, it's not about just the stamp duty. Obviously, it's all about the deal that you want to agree. So just speak to us or a Hong Kong team and they can run you through what we're able to offer.
Okay, thank you, Marc. I think another very popular questions that I see it from a few audience right now is they are asking about, can overseas buyers get a mortgage? And if so, what is the percentage of the mortgage that they can get?
You want me to do that or Lara do it? Lara, I'm sure overseas. I know the answer, but Lara, maybe you want to do it.
I'm not up to speed with overseas mortgages, but there are definitely mortgages around. I think the mortgage market is a little bit more tricky than the domestic market. So you may want to touch on that, Marc. But
okay, well, that's interesting. So this is update for everybody. 100% it's possible. This is zone 3. You can get 75% loan to value. One of the banks that we work with, as I said in my talk, they're offering 1.99% above their base rate, which is they've got it 0.26%. It's above the Bank of England base rate. It's 2.25%, 75% loan to value they'll do. And you have to obviously have a job and show your income and do your tax returns and all of that. But 100%, it's really easy to get finance at the moment. The banks are offering good deals. As I said, 2.25%. That's almost a UK buyer rate. So it's 100%. It's 100% out there, and it's easy. And you, as I said, you can go up to 75. If I'm really honest, when I buy a property, I would try never to buy more with 65% finance, because I want to make sure I've always got positive income. I'm always building up a bit of a reserve in case. In case anything goes wrong, I've always got a bit of cash there sitting. So I personally would only take 65%, but if you want to take 75%, it's out there.
We are, just to add to that, Marc, we do work alongside Capricorn Finance, who are specialists in overseas mortgages. So if anyone wants to make contact with with Benham Reeves, we can put you in touch with Capricorn to have a chat.
Okay. Thank you, Lara, and thank you, Mark. So yes, and now this is a question for Alex regarding education again. So well, due to the COVID nowadays, so what impact has the COVID on the number of overseas students like studying in UK schools and universities?
Okay, well, obviously COVID has had a big impact, but it's not necessarily in the way you might think. So we need to split them up between sort of schools and universities. So if we talk about schools first, for the current students, there have been some, I've got some students that are still studying at UK schools, but they're studying in China and learning remotely just because the parents have some concerns, or they're a bit worried about sort of the logistical arrangements. And so the schools are providing remote learning at the moment for them, and they're planning on coming back as soon as the situation looks a bit more positive in their eyes. However, they are the minority. I've got loads of students already here in the UK still continuing their studies because the parents and the students, they've weighed up sort of the cost benefit analysis of all of the risks, and you know, they're very happy to stay here. The Christmas holiday is coming up, and so because of the restrictions they have with the isolation, a lot of students are actually going to spend their Christmas holidays here, and they will stay with their guardians, which are, you know, pastoral arrangements we've set up. And looking at it from a positive side of things, they actually get to experience a part of British culture that usually overseas students miss out on, which is, you know, spending Christmas Day with the family and having Christmas dinner and all of those sorts of things. In terms of the numbers, so I think actually I'm busier now than I've ever been with COVID. The demand certainly hasn't dropped yet, because with certainly a lot of the schools I work with, they have, you know, like Eton and Westminster, Harrow, the admissions process starts rather early, so they are looking towards the future, and so they're seeing COVID as, you know, a temporary issue, and by the time it comes to actually them studying in the UK, it should have resolved itself. And I'm dealing with a lot of 16 plus applications too, more so than I have any other year actually, and so they will be coming in September. So the demand, I think, has maybe slightly increased. It's just followed that gradual increase. I can see when schools send me messages about how many have applied, and like, for example, there's a school called Wellington College. Last year it was just under 400 students had applied. Now they're saying it's over 400 students have applied for this admission cycle. So there is an increase there. For universities, there's the undergraduate admissions. A lot of students have stayed in China to learn remotely for the undergraduate admissions, but they are intending on coming, you know, once things get better, and so they've already started their course. They will just, their arrival date has been slightly postponed, and lots of students have already begun. I have some students even in like Liverpool who are living in the Liverpool University accommodation and just learning online. It's the postgraduate students that I think the numbers have fallen in the most. A big reason for this is because of the length of the degree course. Most of them are just 1 year. And so, you know, for it to be interrupted by COVID, that you know, the COVID interruption will take up a significant part of their degree. So they've just decided to postpone it. And of course, because postgraduate students, many of them already have jobs, they're more mobile, they're more secure. So they're just planning on waiting and postponing it either until January start or later on for a September start. So the numbers are down, but I'm expecting a big recovery as soon as things start to get a bit better.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alex. So I think there's still many questions, but I'm sorry that we are going to take the one last questions. That will be more about the Millbrook Park development. So Lara may be able to help. So Mr. Wong is asking, what is the prediction of the price increase for Millbrook Park in the next 5 years? So Lara, maybe can you assist?
Oh, good question.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but certainly, as I said before, prices have increased in Mill Hill nearly 4% in the last year alone. So given that, you know, Millbrook Park is part of the consortium of about 2,400 new homes, so it's a redevelopment of the area. We certainly feel that prices will significantly increase. Over the last 5 years at our Hendon development, which is just down the road, you know, it's increased 128% in that time. Obviously, we're yet to see what Millbrook Park produces, but we're all certainly confident that any area that is regenerated will increase significantly, sometimes more than, you know, double the London average. And we're in such a fantastic location opposite the station with all the amenities you could want on your doorstep, about 20 Ofsted outstanding rated schools in the area, parking included. I mean, really, it absolutely ticks every box. You've got some beautiful open country parks, yet only 20 minutes away from central London. Strongly believe that there will be great capital growth again. Just to reiterate, we've seen nearly 4% in the last year alone.
Okay, sounds positive. So thank you, Lara, and thank you all. Thank you, Marc and Alex, for speaking in today's webinar. So for those that we can't like carry on the questions, you can please feel free to email to us at webinar@benhams.com, or just pick up the phone and speak to one of our brokers from Benham Reeves Hong Kong office. So thank you everyone again for joining this webinar, and I hope you all find this webinar useful, and see you all again very soon. Thank you.
Just before everyone goes, Alexandra, do you want to tell them when we're doing the show coming up, so they know, because we're going to be doing this launch while we have the webinar, which is a pre-talk to it. We do have the show coming up soon. Do you want to just quickly tell everybody, because I'm sure they'll all like to rush down to reserve?
Okay, so yeah, so we are actually having the Millbrook Park exhibition in the Mandarin Oriental Hotel on the 21st and the 22nd of this month, so which is a Saturday and Sunday, so from 11 to 7 p.m. But do get in touch with us before the launch, because some of the nice units may have gone. So just feel free to speak to us. Thank you.